Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I hope you all are doing well. Students, in this lecture, we will discuss the detailed summary of the essay on Prejudice by William Hazlitt. William Hazlitt was very famous English writer and very famous English philosopher. He was born on 1778 and died on 1830, and he is now considered one of the greatest essayists in the history of the English language. During his lifetime, he befriended many people who are now part of the 19th century, including Charles Mary Lamb, S.T. Coleridge, William Wordsworth, and John Keats. Now we discuss the detailed summary of the essay on Prejudice. On Prejudice is the very beautiful essay by William Hazlitt. In the essay, he conveys a deep moral lesson with thought-provoking message. And through the lesson, William Hazlitt describes the negative effects of prejudice. To him, prejudice is a great evil. It ruins human relations. A person does not understand the negative effects of prejudice, but ultimately destroys his life and his relations. And he says that William Hazlitt explains to us in the lesson that different aspects of the word prejudice. He says that prejudice in its ordinary sense is to judge a thing without examining it. If we form an opinion about a thing without examining or judging it. And the next point, which is highlighted by the writer, is he calls prejudice a child of ignorance. The child of ignorance means that prejudice is born in a man which is ready to believe a thing without any doubt about it. He considers it a final and conclusive reality, and he does not need a proof to believe it. We believe an idea or a thing without analyzing it, and ignorance breeds prejudice. Absence of proofs means that we form an opinion about a thing from our own wishes and fancies. And ignorance, the writer says, is a blank canvas on which we can paint anything we like. We can paint on it devils or angels. And according to the writer, the most ignorant people are rude and insolent, and prejudice depends on habits. And prejudice, the writer says, depends on the habit and customs we repeat so often. And the repetition of our habits become an integral part of our mind, and we cannot remove it off from our mind. And the next, the writer explains and describes the negative qualities of the prejudice. William Hazlitt has analyzed different aspects of prejudice in a philosophical manner. He is not fully opposed to the existence of prejudice, however, he is not fully in favor of it, and he points out that the basis of prejudice is lack of knowledge and ignorance. And prejudice means to judge a thing and form an opinion about it without examine. And there William Hazlitt has analyzed different aspects of prejudice in a philosophical manner, and he is not fully opposed to the existence of prejudice. However, he is not fully in favor of it. And he points out that the basis of prejudice is lack of knowledge and ignorance. And there are certain qualities in prejudice which give it a negative color. Firstly, prejudice is the enemy of reasons. It negates everything which is rational and natural, and it is blind to truth, justice, and fair play. Secondly, it is against tolerance and patience. A prejudiced person does not welcome innovation and doubt. It breeds and lives on distrust, hate, and malice. It divides mankind into certain groups and sects, and false groups and sects remains, you can say, at war with one another. Eventually the unity of mankind is torn into pieces. And next, the prejudice the writer points out is a sort of egotism. A man lives in a cell of ignorance which he has created for himself. Being a negative thing, prejudice destroys the fabric of society. And the next point, which is highlighted by the William Hazlitt, that practice of prejudice. Prejudice breeds intolerance. A prejudiced person disregarded the views and impression of other people and other views. In this way, he expresses his dislikes or hatred for other people, and prejudice thus divides people into different sects and groups. It produces enmity among different nations and countries. And then the writer points out that prejudice cannot be eliminated from our life, it is part of our life. It is a mistake to think that all prejudice are false. It is wrong to say that we cannot live without law based on reasons. In our practical life, you can say we follow many prejudices which are not based on reasons. These principles and rules have come to us from our parents, traditions, and authority, and they have nothing to do with the reason. And then the writer tells us about the role of reasons. And he says and point out that we cannot separate the word reasons from prejudice. It is very difficult for a person to frame such laws and codes of life as are exclusively based on reasons. And in the same manner, we cannot depend on law based on customs, imaginations, or passions. It is the intermixture of, you can say, both reasons and habits that we can make our life easy and comfortable, and we should use them collectively. And the writer says that and tell us that without the aid of prejudice and custom, he should not be able to find his way across the room, and reasons may play the part of the critic and correct certain errors afterwards. At last, the writer tells us about the working of prejudice and reasons. In this point, he says that both prejudice and reasons work together to make our practical life easy and pleasant. And we can reduce the harms of prejudice if we do not take it to excessive extent. Moreover, we can reduce the harm of reasons if we use it fairly. And we cannot lead a pleasant and nice life if we spend it on laws framed by reasons only. That is why the writer concludes his essay by saying that prejudices are necessary part and important part of our life, and we must nourish them. This is the end of your lecture. If you have any questions regarding this lecture, you can ask me in the comment section. Thank you so much.